It all started on this quiet summer evening down by the lake at Riverside Haven, our little slice of paradise with about 60 cozy homes nestled along the water. $250 a month in HOA dues that were supposed to keep everything picture perfect. But man, did that go sideways fast. I just fired up the grill on the dock, burgers sizzling away, when this guy rolls up in what looks like a cop car, badge flashing under the sunset, and before I can even flip the patties, he's got a gun pointed at my brother Ethan, barking orders like he's in some bad action flick. The shot rings out bam and Ethan's clutching his shoulder, blood seeping through his shirt, while this fake officer's face drains white, realizing he's just plugged a U.S. Senator, all because our HOA queen bee, Margaret Langford, thought she could bury her dirty secrets by taking us out. Looking back, I never imagined moving into Grandpa's old lakeside cottage would turn into this nightmare. Riverside Haven seemed like the dream spot, with the gentle waves lapping at the shore, neighbors waving from their porches, that kind of small-town charm you'd see in a Hallmark movie, but without the happy ending scripted in advance. I'd inherited the place after Grandpa passed, figured it'd be a fresh start after my divorce, teaching history at the local high school during the week, and fixing up the cottage on weekends. Nothing fancy, just a dock for fishing, a hammock swaying in the breeze, the simple life I craved. But then there's Margaret, the HOA president, this wiry woman in her 50s with a clipboard always at the ready, who at first came off as overly enthusiastic, like she'd bake you cookies while quoting the bylaws. Turns out, that enthusiasm was a mask for something darker. She ruled that board like a mini dictator, fining folks for the tiniest things, and I guess I became her pet project right from the jump. It kicked off with the dock. Mine was weathered pine, same as half the others around the lake. But nope, Margaret slaps me with a violation notice saying it doesn't match the approved aesthetic, whatever that means, and suddenly I'm out there measuring boards, snapping photos at dawn to prove it's identical to old Mr. Jenkins next door. I let it slide at first, paid the fine to keep the peace, but then the hits kept coming. Grass a quarter-inch too tall after a rainy spell, my outdoor chairs in unauthorized navy blue, instead of the mandated sky blue, even a laundry line visible from the road that I'd hung for one afternoon to dry some towels. Each time, I'd document it all, timestamps and everything, thinking logic would win out, and I even dragged myself to an HOA meeting, heart pounding a bit, because I'm not one for confrontation. But hey, this was my home. The room was packed, folks shifting in their seats, and Margaret's up there at the podium, her voice sharp as a tack, dismissing my evidence with a wave. Mr. Thompson, perhaps Riverside Haven just isn't the right fit for someone like you, and the way she said it, with that smug smile, it hit me like a gut punch, like she was implying I was some outsider dragging down the property values, when really, I later learned, she was siphoning off dues through phony landscaping contracts to line her own pockets. Over $150,000 vanished into ghost companies she controlled. That's when Ethan got pulled into the mesh. My big brother, the one who made it big, a U.S. Senator out of D.C., serving on those oversight committees that sniff out corruption in everything from local governments to big corporations. But to me, he's just the guy who taught me to skip rocks on this very lake as kids. He came down for a weekend to unwind, khakis and a polo, venting about Capitol Hill drama, while we cracked open some beers, and I spilled about Margaret's petty tyranny, how it was wearing me down, making me question if staying was worth it. Ethan offered to pull strings, get some lawyers involved, but I waved him off, didn't want to play the "my brother's a senator" card, figured I could handle it myself. Until Margaret spotted him during her routine patrol, snapped a photo of his rental car's plates, and did her homework. Panic set in for Heathen's name popped up, his committee work, and she realized if he poked around, her embezzlement scheme would crumble. All those kickbacks from vendors she'd strong-armed, the personal trips billed as community expenses, it could drag her into federal territory, ruin her cushy life built on controlling this little fiefdom. Suddenly, her tune changed. She shows up at my door with a plate of store-bought cookies, all smiles and, "Oh, Mr. Thompson, I had no idea your brother was such an important man. We should honor that." But there was this edge to her voice, a subtle dig about how senators have enemies, and we'd hate for anything to jeopardize your teaching job. It felt slimy, like she was testing the waters, and sure enough, The threats ramped up. Anonymous complaints flooded the school district about me being unstable. Cropped photos of my yard made to look trashed circulating in the neighborhood chat. Whispers that Ethan and I were some kind of troublemakers plotting to take over the HOA. I pushed back harder, digging into public records. Finding her own house had violations she'd ignored, faded shutters, overgrown hedges, and hints of those financial red flags, like dues hikes with no improvements to show for it. My neighbor, Mrs. Elena Ramirez, this sweet retired nurse who'd been fined for her vegetable garden, started confiding in me, saying Margaret had intimidated her into silence years ago, and slowly, a little alliance formed, folks tired of the bullying. Things boiled over at the big community meeting. Ethan flew back down, determined to help without going full senator mode, just as a concerned family member, and we planned it out over coffee, him saying, "Alex, transparency's the key. Let's question the budget without accusations." The hall was buzzing, maybe 40 people there, split between Margaret's loyalists, mostly older couples she'd buttered up with promises, and us newcomers, plus a few neutrals eyeing the exits. She kicks it off with her polished speech, projecting slides of my violations like evidence in a trial. But then Ethan stands, calm as ever. "Mrs. Langford, could you explain the $20,000 line item for consulting services last quarter? Seems high for a community this size." I followed up with my folder of proof photos, receipts pointing out her hypocrisy, and the room erupted in murmurs. She turned beet red, snapping, "This is a witch hunt, orchestrated by outsiders who don't belong here." But when the vote came, should my fines be dropped, it squeaked through, 32 to 28 in our favor, and Margaret stormed out, hissing over her shoulder, "You'll regret this, both of you." Her eyes like daggers, that mix of rage and fear, because deep down, she knew we'd cracked her facade. She didn't waste time retaliating complaints to zoning boards. Wild conspiracy posts online claiming Ethan was using his position to bully hardworking locals. And then she called an emergency board meeting, spinning tales of threats to the community, convincing them to greenlight $40,000 for enhanced security. That's where Vince Harlan came in, this down-on-his-luck ex-security guard drowning in gambling debts, whom Margaret hired under the table, feeding him lies that Ethan was some corrupt politician dodging justice, never mentioning the senator part. Just make him back off, whatever it takes. Vince, desperate for the cash, bought into it, thinking it was easy money. Cut to that fateful evening, Ethan and I on the dock, grill smoke curling up, talking about maybe selling the place if things didn't calm, when headlights pierce the dusk, and out steps Vince in a rented cop uniform, badge gleaming fake under the porch light. "Senator Hayes? I'm Officer Grant. Here on protective detail. There's been a credible threat against you. Need to take you into custody." Ethan's eyes narrow. "Hold up, who sent you? Badge number?" But Vince fumbles, radio crackling static, demeanor cracking, and when we don't budge, he pulls the gun, voice shaky. "Don't make this hard, just come with me." The struggle's quick. Ethan lunges for the radio, shot fires, grazing his shoulder, and Vince freezes, blurting, "She said you'd be alone, that you were dangerous. Margaret paid me. Oh God, what have I done?" Neighbors rush over at the noise, sirens wailing in the distance. And there's Margaret herself, pulling up, concerned. But her face says it all, pure shock that it went this far. Vince spilled everything to the real cops that night, breaking down in tears about the debts, how Margaret manipulated him into thinking it was just intimidation, not assault. The FBI got involved fast. Ethan's status sped things up, and they unearthed the embezzlement trail, frozen accounts. The whole scheme exposed like peeling back rotten wood. The community reeled. We held an emergency meeting, ousted Margaret on the spot, put in Tom Ellis as interim prez, this level-headed mechanic who'd always stayed neutral. Media swarmed national headlines about HOA tyrant targets senator, and it turned Riverside Haven upside down, but in a good way eventually. The trial was a spectacle. Vince took a plea deal, testified how Margaret cornered him at a bar, promising quick cash to scare off a troublemaker. Medical experts detailed Ethan's wound, the close call, and when I took the stand, laying out years of documentation, Margaret glared daggers. But her own testimony sunk her, rambling about protecting the community from elitists, denying everything with wild eyes, like she believed her own lies. Jury didn't buy it. Guilty on fraud, conspiracy, attempted assault 12 years behind bars, $180,000 restitution, banned from any HOA forever. She screamed as they led her away. This isn't over, you'll see. 5 years on, Riverside Havens transformed. Tom's transparent leadership used the recovered funds for real upgrades, like a new playground and better docks. Property values up 20%, and folks actually talk now, no more fear. Ethan's bill on HOA reforms passed, capping fees and mandating audits, got him reelected in a landslide. Me? I stepped up as vice president, even bought Margaret's foreclosed house dirt cheap, turned it into a rental for young families. It's ironic. Really, her vendetta sparked all this positive change. But sitting here now, watching the lake sparkle, I wonder if justice like that always feels this bittersweet, or if some folks like her are just wired to destroy until they're stopped. What do you think? Was Margaret a monster, or just a product of unchecked power in these tight-knit communities? Drop a comment below with your take on HOA dramas, who's right in these neighborhood battles, or share your own wild story. I read every one. And hey, if this hit home, smash that like button and subscribe for more real-life tales that make you think. Thanks for listening, folks.